Alrighty, welcome back to the Oobtay. Setting that camera up is such an effort, but nonetheless, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Jackson. I am a bodybuilder. I'm an online physique coach. You guys know the fucking drill. If you like the video,
Sweet.
oh,
so it's like 2731.
Sorry, I'm a big podcast listener. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, follow the journey. There's a lot to update you guys on. Yeah, we're just heading to the gym now. Gonna hit legs, so take you guys through legs. We've had to make some adjustments to the program because your boy almost tore his ACL. I'm pretty sure I have a grade. Oh, we don't want that to happen. I'm pretty sure I have a grade 2 or grade 1.5, if you want to call it, ACL tear. It hasn't really impacted training too much. When it happened, I'm not gonna lie, I was like super fucking worried. I was like, like my training career is over. I'm never gonna be able to train again. My legs are gonna be small. I was really worried. Like, all jokes aside, like I was genuinely extremely upset because I was like, like even just coming down to things like, you know, what if I can't do steps or shit like that. So yeah, I was a bit stressed out when I found out about that. But been going physio, got an MRI done, which, by the way, MRIs are fucking expensive. So yeah, no, it's positive. Basically just have to like alter some training a bit, which I'm gonna run you guys through. I won't tell you now. So yeah, like headspace wise, that was a bit rough. But overall, things are good. We wrapped up the mini cut. So I'll give you guys an update too, just like sort of what's going on. You know, obviously we started the usage of performance enhancing drugs. So yeah, that's been interesting. I'm coming up to week 4 now. And look, like, I'll be honest, like, no real changes in the first 3 weeks. This week is where I've started to feel it the most. Like, pumps in the gym are really high, and I want to be as transparent as I can with you guys, because I think, you know, documenting this journey, it's worth being transparent and just being honest with everything that's going on, and I want that to come through the videos. So yeah, honestly, mindset wise, like, haven't noticed too much. Like, I've just noticed mainly, like, I'm definitely a lot more, I guess you could say, like, I do notice my shifts in mood a lot quicker. But like, look guys, like, if you're watching this and if you're, you know, going to, or whatever it might be, like, I'm not your dad, do what you want. If you're not a competitive, if you're not trying to compete in bodybuilding, I don't really think it's worth doing, but that's just my opinion. You guys can do what you want. But look, like, yeah, shifts in mood, definitely notice. Like, yeah, I feel like in random times of the day, like, anxiety can sort of creep up on me without really noticing. But I do a very conscious effort and a conscious job of trying to stay on top of my mental health, because that for me is like the most important thing. Like, mental health for me is number one. And like, I knew coming into this that I had to take extra care of that, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, again, full transparency, I see a psychologist, I practice mindfulness, I do things in my day that set me up and take me out of like this constant state of being on, to calm my mind, you know, like whatever it is for you that you need to do to look after yourself and look after your mental health, whether it's like being around really supportive people, like that sort of stuff. Like, you need to take those precautions, otherwise if you do take it, like, it's going to be a very rough time. But look, so far we're good. We just wrapped up the mini cut, so I didn't drop any weight, obviously, because like the PDs have affected that. So I've actually put on weight, but I'm definitely leaner. I look bigger. I'll put up some photos of like the journey so far from when I started to now. It's pretty cool. Like, obviously that's what you're taking this stuff for, to make progress. And then also we're on maintenance calories this week, and then next week we start like a proper growth phase. Had a good conversation with my coach of just like where things are at in terms of like the goals and like competitions and what I would like to be doing. For me to compete in the IFBB or NPC, whatever it is, like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I need a lot of fucking muscle tissue, and that's just a fact. Like, that's not me just, you know, saying, oh, like, I'm small or whatever. Like, I am, but like, I just need a lot of muscle tissue. Like, my weight cut for my height would be somewhere around 94 to 95 kilos. So that's going to take some time, and I'm personally in zero rush to make that happen. In zero rush to make that happen. However long that takes, you know, that's a lot of muscle tissue to add So if it takes a year and a half, like, so be it. I think where a lot of people go wrong in regards to like their progress and trying to build a physique and put on muscle tissue is that it's not as quick as what people think it is. Like, it takes time. Muscle tissue is a very slow process and expensive on the body. So for you to make that happen, like, you need to be willing to be patient, especially in bodybuilding, especially if you want to compete. It is the perfect example of delayed gratification. If you do not have that understanding going into it, it's going to be a really rough time. So you may as well just enjoy the phases that you're in while you're in them. You know, like, I may as well just enjoy the fact that, yeah, I get to eat more food, I get to get stronger, I get to see my body transform, and if it takes a while for that to happen, then so be it. Like, I'm not in a rush at all. This is a personal journey for me. This is me pursuing something that I've always wanted to do. So, like, I'm in it now, and I may as well enjoy that. I think moving the goalpost is obviously very important when it comes to goals and wanting to strive for more and reach new heights, but you need to enjoy it while you're there. So for now, we're just enjoying the journey. And yeah, so we'll basically see what happens. Like, I'm at 3,000 calories at the moment, which is like my maintenance. So obviously just like getting an extra meal in a day just to support that. And then training intensity is obviously, you know, always where it is, nice and intense. And we're just pulling back on legs at the moment just to sort of let that ACL heal up a little bit. But yeah, that's a bit of an update, guys. I think that's enough rambling for me from now. I'll see you guys in the gym. So I recorded this whole session without the mic or the audio working. So that's really annoying. But nonetheless, we still got the footage. So I'm just going to voice over mainly the rest of this session for you guys. But just here, I'm going through my foam roller rollouts with my hamstrings for my rehab. The reasoning behind this is basically just to get the hamstrings firing and get the stabilizers around the knee joint working. So I have to do single leg, 5 reps, rolling it out, getting those hamstrings working, keeping my hips as extended as possible, which, as you can see, I'm not the greatest at. Also trying to keep pressure like on the inside of the foot rather than the outside because of the injury. I'm like trying to avoid doing that because it kind of works part of where I hurt the knee. And then after that, I need to like roll all the way in, which you'll see, get my heels up as high as I can, pushing through the toes into the inward of the foot, extending the hips and just holding this for around 20 seconds, which is actually really, really tough. As you can see, I'm struggling quite a bit, especially trying to keep those heels as high as possible. After that, I go into a static lunge. Now, I'm trying to get, again, stabilizers around that ACL joint or ACL knee joint firing as possible. I do a 1 minute eccentric here, so I have to go down for a whole minute, and I'm trying to pull with my hamstrings, my glutes, and into that hip with the supporting leg. It's actually really tough, and that was my rehab for the session. So first exercise, as you guys always know if you've been watching these videos consistently, I always start my leg days off with some sort of hamstring curl. Now, funnily enough, when I did this last week where the injury was a bit more fresh, I felt my ACL, or like where I injured it, a lot more on this exercise rather than any sort of the quad exercises. Usually when it comes to this sort of injury, the main times that you feel it or you notice it is like a buckling of the knee, which, you know, hasn't been happening. So that's really positive. But, you know, I'm trying to be careful here as well because like I'm obviously feeling a lot stronger because of the supplementation and stuff. But I want to be making sure that I'm still moving quality weight, driving that stimulus to the hamstrings and not just moving more weight for the sake of it, because the goal here is to build muscle tissue, not just to get stronger for the sake of it. But these overall felt pretty good and I was quite happy with them. So here we're getting into the second component of the session where we're doing the squat Rogers Pro. It's like a pendulum squat. Now you'll notice where I'm loading it, it's on the top, and I actually made a change to this in this session because I was just feeling the knee sort of like more than the actual quads itself during this exercise, and it didn't feel really comfortable. So you'll see once I get out of this first warm-up set, I actually changed the loading to more of the bottom position and the middle position, and it just like really cooked my legs a lot more by loading it this way. So you'll find that when you have these like really complex sort of machines and they have different loading, you need to sort of find what works for you. And for me, just loading it on that bottom to middle position was a lot better and felt the quads a fuck ton more. So I'm heading into my first working set here. So one of the adjustments that I have been making to reduce some of the load overall and not be silly with obviously the injury I have at the moment is incorporating some sort of tempo work. So I'm trying to do a 3-second tempo and a slight pause in the bottom. Sometimes I adhered to it, sometimes I didn't. I tried to keep it as honest as possible, but as you can see, like the loading's very different. The knee joint and overall just felt honestly really good. So I was really happy with that, and obviously the strength felt really good too. I was able to get it 10 reps out here, trying to keep myself as upright as possible. You'll notice that on sometimes these sort of machines where there's no back support, you can sort of tend to shift your weight forward because it is a stronger position. Think of it as like a low bar squat. It's much more hip dominant but much stronger, but obviously the goal here is not to be just moving the most weight as possible. We want to be getting as much tension on those quads, which is ultimately going to be making it grow the most. But this set felt really good, but it was a bit of a shock because it was so much more quad dominant than it has been the last few weeks. So moving on to the final set here, being the third set. I reduced the weight a little bit here because I was so cooked, but still aimed for 10 reps. Also was just trying to find like a really good hand position. Like I find these machines can be a little bit awkward where to put your hands to make sure you can stay as upright as possible. But, it felt really good overall. Like I was just really happy to walk away from this session and not have any problems with the knee, especially during this exercise being the main compound exercise of the session and just wanting to be trying to drive as much of the strength as possible. You'll notice as well, like trying to adhere to that tempo, but third final set, it wasn't the most cleanest tempo, but still did my best to adhere to it and just making sure that I'm not putting too much pressure on that knee joint. But it felt good overall, so I was okay with a little bit of that faster pace on the way down, but as you can see, still trying to keep the tempo as best as possible. So overall, was really happy with how we walked away from that compound movement, and we move on to some RDLs after this. So heading into RDLs, I'm supposed to be doing dumbbell RDLs, but I've been doing this machine here because it's just a lot easier to load up. Find the dumbbells really hard to carry, especially when you're trying to do 40 or 50 kilo RDLs. I also changed this around a little bit. Usually I've been facing the other way, and I've found it extremely easy, where this one, I found it a lot harder because obviously the weights were moving away from me rather than moving towards me. Very big on the hamstrings here. My technique could have been a little bit better in regards to how I was moving. I think I was just overall really tired. As you can see, I'm really fucking sweaty. I'm really fatigued. So I think that Squat Pro really took it out of me. But, like it's just a conditioning aspect. Like if you change loading, if you change an exercise a certain way, you're obviously going to pay for that because it's a stimulus that you haven't been exposed to before. So now we're moving on to our leg extension. Now, the setup of this leg extension is to have the back support as far back as possible. So you're getting a little bit more of a stretch in those quads. Obviously, if you know anything about hypertrophy training, muscles in a slightly lengthened position or more of a lengthened position can increase hypertrophy. So that's been the goal here. Now, looking back at this footage and just looking at how I'm moving this weight, I think I could have pulled back a little bit more and gone for a little bit more quality over the actual load itself. I think it's really important watching back your training footage because you can see how you're moving the weight. And here I'm kind of just like throwing it around a little bit. So trying to remember that next time I should be sort of trying to control that a little bit more. If I have to pull the weight back a little bit too, then that's okay. This video is a bit of a recipe for disaster because the camera was actually dying, so I didn't get a lot of footage left for the rest of the video. So just one set of seated leg curls here. I ended up doing 3, and I was pretty cooked by the end of this session. So again, like looking back, probably should have just taken a little bit more rest between my sets to control and just catch my breath, let the muscles recover a little bit more, just so I can get a little bit more quality. Like when it comes to hypertrophy training, quality movement and quality technique is what's ultimately going to get you the best results in terms of a stimulus, because you're trying to drive tension towards the target muscle. And if you're like trying to shoot a bow and arrow and you constantly keep missing the bullseye, that's what the result is when you move weight just for the sake of it and you're throwing it around and you're not getting good quality movement in. You want to be hitting that bullseye every single time to make sure you're hitting that target muscle as best as possible and getting the best return on investment. So just wrapping up the session, I did a little bit of posing after just to give a bit of a physique update. I'm honestly really happy with where things are at. Next week, we are pushing a growth phase for dedicated muscle tissue. As we know, we have a lot of size that we need to put on, but overall, just reviewing the session, I was pretty happy with it. I think there's some pointers I'm going to take into the next one where taking a little bit longer rest periods, a little bit more quality over quantity, pulling back some of the load where I need to. But overall, really positive session. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.